You know that feeling, right? Every coach does. It's late in a match, your team's under the pump, and you absolutely have to make a tactical switch. You shout the instruction, and you get nothing back. Is it a bad attitude? Are they just not focused? Well, today we're diving into something called the fatigue decision loop, and you're about to see why the problem isn't in your players' heads, it's in their legs.
So picture this, you're right there on the touchline. It's the 72nd minute. You get a clear instruction to your captain. He passes it on to the right back, who's just busted a gut on a 35-meter recovery run. He nods, seems like he gets it, and then crickets. Absolutely nothing changes on the pitch. It has to be one of the most frustrating things in coaching.
And what's your first thought? It's always the same. Is he even listening to me? Does he just not care? We immediately jump to the conclusion that it's a discipline problem, right? That's always been the easy answer for why those critical late-game instructions just seem to, well, disappear.
But what if I told you it has nothing to do with discipline, that it's actually a physiological problem? The big idea here is that extreme fatigue physically stops a player from being able to process complex information. And this isn't some excuse, it's just straight-up biological reality.
Okay, so let's get into the science of how this actually works. It all comes down to this physiological barrier that researchers call the 20-kilometer-per-hour communication wall. And this is the exact point where your brilliant tactics smash right into biology.
And there it is, the magic number, 20 kilometers per hour. And look, this isn't just a theory. The performance science on this is crystal clear. As soon as a player pushes past this speed, their working memory, their ability to take on new info, it basically just gets shut down. Think of it like a hardwired limit in the brain.
So what does that actually mean out on the field? Well, below 20 kilometers per hour, a player has the brain power, the cognitive space, to process a tactical instruction. But the second they sprint past that mark, their brain just flips a switch into survival mode. All it cares about is managing oxygen, keeping balance, coordinating muscles. That's it. A three-step command like step up, hold the line, then press on the trigger, yeah, that's just noise. It's not getting through. And you know what? It gets even crazier at full speed. When a player hits a max sprint, we're talking over 25 kilometers per hour, they go into what's called a communication blackout. For the next 3 to 5 seconds, their ability to process language is completely offline. The sound of your voice might hit their eardrums, but the brain literally cannot compute the meaning.
So you have to ask, how does this affect the game? Because not every player is hit by this equally. Some positions are way more likely to experience this communication breakdown. And the data here, it tells a really fascinating story.
Just look at this data from Euro 2024. It tells you everything you need to know. Your wingbacks and your fullbacks, they're hitting the highest sprint speeds, constantly smashing through that 20 kilometers per hour wall. Your wide forwards are right there with them. But then look down at the center backs. They have the lowest sprint demands by far, which makes them the most reliable communication hubs when the game gets chaotic.
And this chart really drives the point home, especially for that crucial second half. I mean, look at the huge difference in how often these players are in a blackout. Your chances of getting a clear message to your wingback are just plummeting as the game goes on. Meanwhile, your center back, he's still a reliable signal tower. And this is all happening at the exact moment you need communication the most.
Now, let's connect this to a real-world example that shows this whole principle in action. Let's talk about the Nantes paradox.
Okay, so Nantes is what you'd call a highly relationist team. Their whole game is built on real-time player-to-player communication. Guys reading each other's movements, calling out instructions, coordinating on the fly. When it works, it's beautiful to watch. But it's also incredibly fragile. So is it really any surprise that the data shows they have one of the worst performance drops in the second half of matches?
And here's why. A relationalist system like theirs just falls apart when that communication network fails because of fatigue. On the other hand, a positionalist system is way more durable. Why? Because it relies on a preloaded map of space from the training ground. A tired player might not be able to process a shouted order, but they can still automatically fall back to their assigned zone because that action is burned into their long-term memory, not dependent on real-time chatter.
All right, so we've laid out the problem. We've looked at the science. So now the big question is, what the heck do we do about it? How do we redesign our communication so that it can actually survive fatigue? Well, the answer definitely isn't just screaming louder from the sideline. That's just adding static to a system that can't hear you anyway. No, the real solution is strategic. It's all about how you design your communication system before the first whistle even blows.
And here's a dead simple 3-step plan you can use. First, before the match, pick a relay player for the second half. This should be your center back or maybe your holding midfielder. Second, you pre-brief that player on the 2 or 3 tactical tweaks you're most likely to make. And third, you create simple, nonverbal signals, hand gestures for your most urgent changes.
So, it all comes down to 3 hard and fast rules for coaching after the 65th minute. Rule 1. Make your instructions nonverbal. A simple hand signal is infinitely more reliable than a sentence. Rule 2. Never ever send a complex verbal instruction to a wingback or a wide forward. Always route it through your central relay player. And Rule 3. Get your most complex tactical shifts done in the first half, when everyone's brains are still fresh.
This quote right here really nails the whole change in thinking. The team that executes a perfect high press in the 73rd minute, they're not reacting to some guy yelling on the sideline. No, they're acting on a trigger that was drilled and rehearsed and preloaded all week in training. Your job as a coach has to shift from being a reactive instructor to a proactive architect.
So, I'll just leave you with this question. You can come up with the most brilliant tactical masterpiece in the world, but it is completely useless if it can't survive contact with fatigue. So you have to ask yourself, are my instructions designed for the first minute of the game, or are they truly built to survive the 72nd?